Om Shanti. Mm. Om Shanti. So today I'm going to take up the class on the philosophy of karma. Before we get into the aspect of how karma works and how the descent of the soul takes place. Now, the less the energy in the soul, the more impure it becomes. And the more impure it becomes, the more the experience of sorrow. The very first sign of losing energy is body consciousness. When the purity comes down, there's a lot of body consciousness that is, and this body. And so from the minute that you become body conscious comes all the five vices. When you're soul conscious, there are no vices, they are virtues. The minute you think you're a soul, there is love, there is peace, there is happiness, there's purity, there is strength, everything you experience. But the more you become body conscious that I'm this body, so then you start comparing your body with others, and then you want to be better than others. And then there is greed, and then there is attachment, and there is lust. And then there will be ego, anger. All the vices come when there is body consciousness. It depends. It's like it varies in degrees in each person, but it is expressed. So once these vices increase, then the actions that we perform would be called vikarma. It is negative actions. Whatever actions which are ruled by body consciousness, that is body consciousness bringing vices. So if there's an action that I'm performing with some influence of some anger, some influence of ego that I'm the greatest, or some influence of greed, I want to get this, I want to get that, or some influence of attachment that, this is mine and I want to do it for mine. So all this creates a pathway to sorrow. And this also creates what you call as actions which are called vikarma, negative actions. Any actions we perform on the basis of what you call as virtues, and good intentions and all that, it brings about all this good intentions and good wishes. That is called sukarma. Sukarma are what you call as positive actions. So these negative actions and positive actions, they both have their own repercussions. Repercussions are its consequences, is return, or its fruition. If you take a positive actions, it has a fruition, it has an effect, it has an what you call as its effect, because it is the cause, the action is the cause, and then there is an effect for it. So as it said, every action has its opposite and equal reaction. Every action. So like if you sow a seed, mangoes would come only in summer. It can't come immediately. Probably a banana or a guava or a papita or something like that, papaya or something. It is not seasonal. You can get it all through the year, but not mango. Not mango, not lychee, not other the different kind of things, and they only come at the right certain places at certain time. In the same way, every action's fruition or effect happens according to its own time, its own place. So we can't say, okay, he slapped this person, so immediately then he should get the effect of it the very next day. That's not possible. Each thing has its own timing, each action. Some are you to consider seasonal, and some are like all through the same time you will experience. So good and bad, they have the effect. Now good, of course, when any sukarma, the positive actions you perform, you do understand, like we say, oh my god, how lucky did I become, without making any effort I got this result. Everything happened so smoothly without even me thinking, and I thought I have to invest a lot of energy, and nothing, it just happened so smoothly. I don't know how I have such good people in my life who are so helpful, so trustworthy, so loyal, and so much. This is all sukarma. positive actions, and the results you get. So any actions disturbs four things or makes it good. The effect is on four things: janna, manna, tanna, janna, manna, tanna, tanna, manna, janna, dhan. This is the right way to say. Tanna, manna, dhanna, jan. Tan, body. It affects the body. Diseases. If there's been sukarma, that you have done so much good for, maybe for health, in the field of health, and you have contributed something there, then you'll have very good health. Absolutely nothing wrong with your health. Man, the mind gets affected because of the actions that we've performed in the past and the sorrow that we might have caused for others, intentionally, non-intentionally. It does come back in that degree, in that way itself. Whatever the other soul has experienced sorrow, that amount we have to go through it, through our mind. So, but in the another level, if you see, if they have performed very good karma, then there is a very good mind. I mean, nothing gets to them. You would see something happens, they said, oh, no problem, chalega, koi baat nahi, they just move on. It doesn't really get to them. It doesn't, bring them down. They keep moving. They're quite a happy kind of souls, you would see, because of whatever actions they performed in the past. And jana people. So when a lot of vikarma is there, then there of course there are certain what you call as vikarma that we have to finish through relationships also. If I've caused a lot of conflicts, and if I have been in a relationship where, what happens, it affects, I do get such relationship which causes sorrow to me. Continuous. So that is, you don't get the kind of people who are very loving and respectful and cooperative and helpful, and those kind of souls you don't get so much. There's always this, somebody deceived you, something wrong happened, and you are taken over by that, and you lose trust in people. So this all happens because in the area of jan is people. And this is the third which gets affected, or you benefit from it. Lastly, dhan also, you are able to keep that money, or like some people have the money but it doesn't stay with them, it just finishes fast because of whatever actions you performed with money, the way you've earned it, the intentions with which you've earned it, and how you have earned it, or whether you have forcefully taken from someone. So according to that, because vikarma, negative action, and that affects the money that you have. So there was his brother. He had a house which he had given for rent in one of these places here, and they didn't vacate, and they didn't pay the rent more than 2 years. So he had told the police. He sent some people who threatened them. He had done everything. His daughters were so worried because his father lives alone, and he's so worried about that house that he has built. With all his savings, he built that house, and then there's no rent, nothing. So both his daughters are abroad. So they told him, Papa, you come and stay with us for some time. And then, because you're getting all worked up and getting stressed with that house, forget about it. Now we've done everything for it. You come. So he went to America. He was there for 6 months with his daughter. And so what happened was, he gets a call from his neighbor, one of his neighbors, that wo ghar ka neighbor jo hai, called up and he said, your house is empty. Those tenants are not there anymore. And I don't know where they are, but it's locked and it is kept there. It's empty. They've taken everything from inside the house and they've gone. They've taken their own furniture and everything. So he immediately flew back, and then he opened the house, and then he put a new lock and he made it so. So when he met me, he said, sister, I owe him, and that man, that person who stayed there with his family, I owed him 23 lakhs. So that's exactly why he stayed in my house, and he properly saw that he, takes back all that money, and then he went. Nobody can take a pie from me. Nobody can come attack me or hurt me. Nobody can make me be born in some family or marry somebody without a karmic account there. It is impossible for you to be born in a family until unless you do not have an account with those people. You not, somebody was telling me, sister, I don't know why I married this man. I saw in the newspaper, this man is the one person, it seems, she's telling he's now owns a company and he's in the stock exchange, his companies, and he's doing so well. I got his alliance at that time and I rejected it because I felt he was not so settled. But then I got to know that he was very settled, and so now it is there audio and video. It is there, na? Hmm? No, it's not there. Shall I speak? Shall I continue? Okay. So I was just telling you, you might have missed the last part. So this lady was telling, I was telling, she was telling that I don't know why I married this man, because that other person I have rejected. He's actually very well settled and he runs a company and everything. So I said, you have an account with this man. Hmm. Because you have a karmic account with this man, naturally you will marry him only. If you had an account with that man, you would have married him, and you would have, of course, in that area also, you would have had sorrow. It's not like, you can avoid it with anybody. However nice a person is, if you have an account with them individually, if you see they're wonderful people, they get together, it's like a chaos. Because an account. They're nice people, but they have an account with each other. With people, with places, with of course with the body. So the thing is, we clear our past karma, that is a past actions, through all these different ways. Through all this pain that we receive through body, through mind, through people, and through money. There's a lot of sorrow caused even in money. When you lose money, there is so much sorrow a person goes through. So all these four ways we finish it. Now, if you see, there is a third type of karma which is called akarma. Apart from sukarma and vikarma, there is a third variety which is called akarma. Akarma is like, this is a result of a lot of sukarma that you must have performed. So much accumulated good karma, so much nice karma that you performed, that what happens is you end up with akarma, neutral actions. That is, that you must have earned so much and you have stocked it up in your bank, like you have fixed deposits, a whole lot of fixed deposits, that you just can eat interest and sit back, don't work, nothing. Absolutely, you don't have to do anything great. You don't have to earn, you don't have to invest a lot of energy, you don't have to do the effort. Automatically it gets that. It's like a, born with a golden spoon in your mouth. It's like that. So that is called a karma. So as I said, karma is accurate. And when people have these questions that why people have to be the way they are, hmm, the thing is, and how come good people have so much suffering? Now, we do not know histories of everyone. Now I'll just give you an example. Now if there are two people fighting, a man and a woman, let's say A and B. Hmm? A and B are fighting. So I'll give a name, Arti and Bharat. They both are fighting like anything, and Bharat raises his hand and slaps his wife, that is Arti, and then he pushes her down and he kicks her also. Okay, this scene has happened. Now you are a witness to it. And when you witnessed it, you stop Bharat and you say, Bharat, how can you do this? Such a terrible person you are. And then you have such a bad impression about Bharat that he has no respect for women, no respect for his wife, and he's such a violent human being. This is birth, so and so birth. Now, the next birth, Arti will become a male, hmm? Bharat will become a female, and they born again the next birth. And because they have this account of sorrow, give and take of sorrow, whatever it is there, they inevitably they will meet either as friends or brothers or neighbors or maybe again spouse. Hmm? So some way they have to meet again because account pulls them. Hmm? And then again, Bharat is a lady now. He will experience lot of violence from Arti now because he's a male now. So he feels authority over the relationship and he will cause the similar equivalent sorrow to Arti, to Bharat. Now Bharat will say, what is wrong with me? I'm such a wonderful lady and I'm doing everything properly. I'm everything. But why is he so angry with me? Now the thing is, this is a history. Every soul has his own history of karmic accounts. Now, if I just see the present, I can only see the present. Who's good, who's bad? We don't know. 5-year serial, you can't understand with one episode in the last episode, no? You should be following up all the five years, and then the last episode you will understand everything. You sort out and know what is going on. Same way, everybody has a lot of births, lot of episodes which have already happened. We don't know which one did what. One Krishna Iyer, a very, very senior judge from Cochin, that is south, he shared an experience that he gave a sentence to somebody that he has to be what you call as given life sentence for a murder that he has done. So, but he felt, even though the evidence is everything against him, somewhere inside it was pricking him. He felt he was innocent. It didn't look like he could go and he could have killed that person. So he called him inside the chambers and said, I need to just give a little counseling before you go to jail for, whole of your life. So he also said, if you're very good behavior. And so at the same time, he said, when you're living for so many years in the jail, you should have some thought in your mind, which will make you feel better. So let me help you with it. He said, how about thinking that if I have not done this particular crime, I have not killed anybody, think of something that you must have done in your whole life, something so bad for which you think you're going to jail now. Think that you connect to that karma and you think you're finishing all the punishment in this way. So he said, sir, when I was 20, now I'm 45, but when I was 20, I pushed a man into a well in my village. And my mother covered it up and said it was an accident and he slipped and he fell. But actually, I pushed him into that. His own cousin, he pushed him. Of feudal matters. Now, the thing is, he says, I'm going for that now. It is not for what happened now because I did not kill anybody, but that was the case I'm going for. So if you see the history is there. The history of our karmic accounts are there. And some people say, how is it possible that, what we did in which birth and we're experiencing now? We should know this birth, we do something, this birth only we should experience. But let me tell you, I have seen so many people. not one or two, so many people. They are 100% responsible for something so wrong, and they don't realize it at all. None whatsoever. None. Not even, not even when I was in college. There used to be a girl and who used to like a boy, and then they went along well, and they decided to get married. But she went to Delhi to study. 4 years into the relationship, she comes back and she tells me that she's going to break up with this boy because it's far long distance thing is not working out. But I said, are you going to settle down in Delhi because your parents, your brother, everybody are here in Hyderabad? So she said, no, I'm going to settle there only, and I'm not going to come back and all. This boy was preparing for IAS exams. Quite an intelligent boy, and he used to very hardworking also. And so he got into railways, and he wasn't very happy with that. And he was again wanting to write for, again, he's writing to get into IAS. So what happened was she broke up with him, and he went into deep depression, suicidal, and he attempted also once or twice. Very sensitive boy. And so the whole focus in his exams and all went. He didn't even join railways. He was hospitalized. He had to go through. The doctor said it's all psychological, some stomach issues, and no diagnosis because it was all psychosomatic. And eventually, he's settled in Australia, has married, have kids, and he never pursued his IAS. Now this girl, whenever I meet, now she's here, she's married, and she wanted to break up with that boy because she met somebody in Delhi, some Punjabi boy she wanted to marry, and that didn't work out. So she's come and she's had an arranged marriage here. Now whenever I meet her, like I don't meet her so often, but sometimes. So when I meet her, she comes up and she tells me, Radhika, why am I suffering so much with my in-laws and my husband and my kids and my sister-in-law and everybody? I have so much problem and I'm suffering so much. In all my life, I've never given sorrow to anybody. Now you know me so well. I did not give sorrow to anybody. Why am I suffering? She said. Now what do I tell her? See, everybody gives sorrow to somebody at one time, but the thing is, this is very obvious situation where the boy's parents also came to know who the cause was. They had actually inquired with us about this girl. So much. Not one person, his whole extension of family suffered with him. And you're saying, I don't even know, I've never given sorrow to anybody. So what's the point of knowing this, but the actions is causing this? Because I'm not even feeling I've done anything wrong. So it doesn't matter what birth it is there, but then every time you see people who go through some disease or some sort of situation, or they evolve through that. They always evolve through that. They understand, because when the situations come, they become very humble. They start realizing that this is there are a lot of things they give importance to, which they never ever bothered about or never had value for, or they were not sincere for. They'll eventually become that because it cleanses you. Because people who go to jail and stay there, why do they keep them in jail? Because let them think and realize how wrong they have done. Mainly realization. So the more I realize, if I realize it, then of course I'll be able to at least lighten the effect of karma. Deep realization. Even if I did something very terribly wrong, but I realize it so deeply that I don't blame anybody, but I think I'm the one who's done it, and I feel bad about it, and I'm putting that across to God very, very openly, very apologetically, and saying, yes, I've done it wrong. Not just like, okay, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Not like that offhandish way of saying it just because you want to just please people and make them keep quiet. No. You genuinely feel it, genuinely from the depth of your heart, and then you realize it, you repent, you regret, and you put it in front of God. At least 50% of it is forgiven, but the rest of the 50% has to be taken care. Yeah. But at the same time, the more you remember Baba, if you remember him the way he is, and how he's not just randomly, hey God, hey Prabhu, Ishwar, no, by knowing the right method of where God is, how he looks like how he's at point of light and he's up there in Paramdam, to know him in that right way, consider yourself soul and remember him, then your past sins will burn away. But we can't say what sin and which sin and when and how much. But your sins, you'll be lightened by sins. The more you remember, and more you connect to God, because He has that power. No human being has that power. He has the power to cleanse it, to cleanse the past. Whatever is not cleansed, then it has to be experienced in the present. It comes also not only just disease or mind or through relationships or through money. It also comes in the form of obstacles, that you want to do good, and that is where you get an obstacle. That is some karmic account of the past. You are not able to progress, whether in your business, whether in your career, whether in your something. It is all karmic accounts of the past. It doesn't allow you, if in some way, directly, indirectly, if we had been responsible for somebody not to progress in some life, then it comes back to us. Yeah. So the karma is not to think about it and feel bad and put ourselves down. It's about understanding that when we're getting some disease, we understand we're finishing an account. No, we're becoming lighter, isn't it? Something is being removed. We should be happier. No, some burden is being removed. So one thing of the past, another thing is of the present. So we should not accumulate more now. So the more I remember God and take power, and with the help of these 8 powers, I am able to perform sukarma. That is, the more I stop reacting, that I stop I'll take all the questions, because there's a little bit more that will show you the picture also and explain. That's another half an hour or maybe a little more than that. So after that, I'll take questions, and if it extends more than 8 and 8:15, I hope you all don't mind today, because this is a long class. So if you see karmic accounts, especially in relationships, it increases if you react. Let us say I have a karmic account with somebody from the past, and it comes in front of me where this person is causing you sorrow in some way or the other, and then you react emotionally, attitudinally, and behaviorally. You react to this person, the account grows, because it is like you to keep meeting that person, and the same exchange will continue all through. You want to finish that account with that person, and that is when you stop reacting. It's okay, I want to finish it. I don't want to get into this whole cycle with this person all the time. You finish it just there and then by not reacting. A lot of people react, and they do more vikarma with that person. Isn't it? So the thing is, the main contrast you have understood in karma. Why do we perform sukarma? Because we are soul conscious. Such kind of highest actions are performed with that. Now there are a few good actions, but then it can turn into a vikarma at any time. Like when I'm helping somebody, but then I'm attached to them. So helping seems very soul conscious, but is actually body conscious, because you are very much attached to them. So you're helping. So then you expect from them. Then there is desire. So there's a whole lot of confusion in it. That's exactly why we have to first practice soul consciousness. Soul consciousness, sukarma. Body consciousness, vikarma. So these are the 2 contrasts that we understand. This is the day and this is the night. This is heaven and this is hell. This is relationships. You can have relationships when you're soul conscious, but you enjoy it. It's a relation. But here there's a bondage. You can't leave them. You can't hold them. Initially, there's a lot of happiness. Then later, you can't leave them. You can't hold them. That is why it's called bondage. You have to live with them, but you have to take the sorrow from them. You have to be in that care job. You have to take sorrow from your people around you. You have to be in this body, but there is disease in it. These are all what we call as bondages. You have to repay the money. You don't have money. So these are called bondages. But in soul consciousness, there is relationship. When there's no bondage, it's a relationship. You come in connection to people, you're having a good time. You're able to contribute something there. You're coming to connection with money, you're spending it, but you're not dependent so much on it. That's how it works. Okay. Now, I'll show you the picture of the whole. Now, the whole of our the downfall and the ascent. on the basis of karma what happened. Just on the basis of karma what happened. So yesterday I spoke to you about the cycle, did I not? So you all remember the gold and the silver and the copper and the iron, how the soul runs around, and the whole cycle it goes through. What was happening in the cycle? What kind of actions it was performing, and why did the soul descend? Because right now, if you see, the soul is degraded because there's no control over disease. There's absolutely no control over relationship because there's so much domestic violence is going on in every family now, especially because they're staying in the house. And also the money, economically, everybody's affected by it. Done is affected totally. And man, of course, everybody's disturbed and they're all scared. A whole lot of people keep asking questions. Will I also die? Will I also get coronavirus? I don't know what's going to happen. So there's no strength at all. So this is the most degraded time for a soul in the whole cycle. But how did we come to this point is what we need to understand before you can just build yourself and start another new and a perfect cycle. Now, see, you can see here in this picture. I hope I can. What do I do? Should I keep it like this? Okay, the first half, let us go through this. There's a whole lot of wordings, but I'll explain. You don't have to read them. What do I do? This here we are. Can you remove this, Ravina? How do I remove this whole thing here? Okay, thank you. Here we are. So if you see here, I spoke about the golden age. So this is the golden age, this is the silver age, and this is the copper age, and this is the iron age. So you can see the variation of color, the gold, the silver, and the copper, and the iron. Now in the golden period, if you see the soul here is Sato Pradhan. All the souls who lived here in this period were Sato Pradhan. That means to say all the 7 qualities, the love, peace, happiness, purity, and knowledge, and strength, and everything is in its highest degree, totally highest, in its most purest form. There's absolutely nothing lacking in those qualities here. And they were totally soul conscious. The ones who lived here, they always knew that they were souls. They never thought that they are bodies. And that is why a deity is never worshipped without applying tilak on their forehead, because they always knew they were souls. And at the same time, because they were soul conscious, they did not experience death. You might wonder how they did not die. No, the thing is, they did not experience the sorrow of leaving the body. They would have a vision. They would have a vision that they're going to leave the body and become a child. And they immediately, they have a ceremony where they lie down and everybody is in happiness that the person is saying goodbye and going. And the body, of course, does not age here. You must have never seen a deity with wrinkles and white hair or gray hair, never. Because they never age in that way. Only through years they age, not through body. So when they leave the body, it's like it's amazing that there is a ceremony and they say goodbye and they leave. So there is no sorrow like how we have it right here. There's so much sorrow. That kind of sorrow is not there here. So this is why it is called the land of immortality, the land of Amar Lok, they say, because there is no experience of death. So in this period of 1,250 years, if you see, they live for about 8 generations, 8 births they have. So 8 births means you can understand the lifespan is very high. The more pure the soul is, the more the level of purity is higher, the more the, the span of the time of birth. You can, your lifespan is very high. So 150 years they would live for each birth. So 8 births in this whole, and they are also considered to be 16 celestial degrees complete. It's written here, 16 celestial degrees complete, meaning they were full. Like, for example, when there is a moon, there are what you call as, there are 16 bits which makes a whole. And then we say it is solar kala. Means it's finished all the solar parts and it's become full, we say, because it goes through pieces and pieces and then it becomes full all through the month, half a month and then another half a month. So in the same way, if you see here, the soul is complete with all its virtues in the highest degree. So that is why it's called solar kala, or 16 degrees complete. And the soul being 16 celestial degrees complete, what happens is in the highest form of purity, there is no experience of sorrow. Absolutely no disease. Because as I said, Tanna, Mana, Dhana, Jana. In every form, there is complete happiness for the king and for his praja, for his subjects. All of them experience the same state of mind. They're all ruling the kingdom. They're all going about, doing what they have to do to run the kingdom. But that kind of sorrow and that kind of, stress and anxiety that we have now is not there at all. Because they were totally soul conscious and the soul's purity is very high. Right? So the ones who ruled this land for 1050 years, the ones who ruled it were Sun dynasty rulers. Sun dynasty is what we call Suryavamshi, the Suryavamshi rulers. And when they were ruling, they ruled for 8 generations. That is the first one, his child, grandchild, great grandchild, and so on and so forth. All of them ruled 8 generations of Sun dynasty. Now let me show you. Now, the ones who ruled, the first ones who sat on the throne, the first rulers, that is the Sun dynasty rulers, were called Lakshmi and Narayan. Lakshmi and Narayan is the name of the post actually. It is not their name. It's the name of the post. And the post is Emperor, Empress. So their children, when they sit on the throne, will also be called Lakshmi Narayan. But then they're Lakshmi Narayan 2. And then there is Lakshmi Narayan 3 and Lakshmi Narayan 4. So there are 8 Lakshmi Narayan which will sit on the throne. That is Emperor, Empress 1, Emperor, Empress 2, and so on and so forth. So they'll all sit on the different thrones one after another. That is why there is a name called, in South especially, there is a name called Adi Narayana. Adi Narayana is the first Narayan. So they are referring to this person, not his children. So he is considered to be Adi Narayan, the first Narayan who sat on the throne. Now, when they were children, when Lakshmi Narayan were children, their names we know, but we do not know the names of his children and great grandchildren or great grandchildren who sat on the throne. When they were young, what their names were, we don't know. But these two, when they were young, they're called Radhe Krishna. They were children. That is why we have a birthday we celebrate of Krishna, but not of Narayan, because it is one and the same. And that is why he is called Surya Narayana. Surya means the one who belongs to the Sun dynasty. Surya Narayana. They don't say Chandra Narayana. They say Surya Narayana because he ruled this part of the time. 1050 years he and his generations ruled, and the soul was totally Sattva-pradhan. Now, when you come to the second part of the, this perfect period of time, which is the soul is Sattva-guni. If you see, it's very light here. It's called Sattva-guni. Sattva-guni means there is purity, there is perfection, just like here, but 2% has come down. That is why there is 16 celestial degrees, and it has come to now here, from 16 it has come to 8. So natural lifespan also decreases. So here they would take 8 births, here they're taking 12 births because the lifespan is, decreased. So they take more births. So the ones who ruled here from Sun dynasty, they come into, this is called Moon dynasty rulers, that is Chandravamshi. And they ruled the land from here. So that is why the 8 generations that Krishna, when he grows older, he rules this. That is, his generations will rule. That is why it's called Krishnashtami. They say Krishnashtami. Ashtami means 8. When they start from the 9th generation, it is Rama and Sita dynasty. So there are about 8. Here 8. Here there are 12 Rama Sitas which will rule. So it will be 12 Rama Sitas which will rule, right? So because there are 12 Rama Sitas, if you see, the very from 8 it's over, from the 9th they start, Rama Sita, that is Moon dynasty. That is called Ram Navami. They say Navami means for the 9th generation they will start ruling. So there are 12 Rama Sitas, that is the emperor and empress who will rule. Their children, their great grandchildren, everything. In this 2500 years, there is no sorrow. There are no demons. There are no wars. There are no attacks. There is no disease. There is no crime. Absolutely, there is no sorrow. We have to be very clear about it. And so most naturally, Krishna never went and stole anybody's saris, nor did he go and become mischievous and eat somebody's butter. He was a prince in his palace. And I don't think so a whole lot of people could even see him. He was inside the palace. But he was the highest purity he had. That's why we remember him even till now. We remember all of them till now because they were so pure. So this was about 2500 years. So the karma that is there here, which I mentioned to you, their sukarma, vikarma is not working. So you might wonder what is going on. How come vikarma, sukarma is not working? It's because they've already earned it. Whatever life they're experiencing, the joy of heaven they're experiencing, is something they've accumulated through their sukarma of the past. So this is fruition, the time of fruition this is. So they are experiencing the fruit of it like eating interest, sitting back and just eating interest. They don't have to work hard, they don't have to do anything. So the thing is, there is no need for them to do any sukarma because there is no choice there. So when you have a choice, then it is considered that you are great. You had every opportunity to go and attack somebody, that you could just say something nasty and get away with it also, but you won't. Even after having a choice you don't do, then they say, oh, that is a very good action, you're performing sukarma. Where you can just sit back and do nothing, but you went and helped. It's called sukarma. Here there is no choice, no good and bad, there's only good there. Everyone who lives there is good, everyone who is ruling is good, and the subjects are good. So there is no choice that you select something and so you get some return for that. No, they are only good and they only experience good. So that the thing is, karma doesn't work here. There is no return for actions that you perform. It's only enjoying what you've been gifted with the whole 2500 years. And it was very much on this earth. So this is the half the cycle which is over. Then we come into the copper period, that is Dwapar Yuga, as we call it. It's 7:45 already, no? Okay, so here we are. So when you come to the copper age, you see the soul here is Rajo Pradhan. Rajo Pradhan means it is, half pure, half impure. The amount of purity which is there, because they still have courage and determination and good qualities and compassion, and there's a lot of love for God. So this is where bhakti began. They start calling out to God, because when there is sorrow, you call out to God. There was no concept of God. In golden and silver ages, nobody called out for God. They were so divine themselves, there was no concept of God. But when they all descended, now if you see here, in the beginning of the golden age, there were 9 lakh people. But when they descended and they came to the end of it here, in the end of silver age, they were 33 crores. That is why it's written in the scriptures, 33 crore Devi Devataye. In Telugu, they say, 33 kotla Devi Devatalu. That's the population. So when they all entered here into this copper period, the sorrow began. And how did the sorrow begin? How did the sorrow begin? The sorrow began because of body consciousness. They lost the soul consciousness, they just forgot that they're souls, and they start thinking themselves as bodies. And because they started thinking of bodies, then what will happen? I told you, the vices start coming, all the 5 vices. And these 5 vices are represented with an image which is called Ravana. That is a concept which came into being. Who is Ravan? Now let me explain to you. इसको खड़ा कर सकते हैं क्या? नहीं तो वो वाला होता है ना, उस नहीं हो सकता शायद. So नहीं, उसको कैसे करेंगे तो? Ravan, they say that he had 10 heads. He had 10. Put it in so that you can see. Okay. 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 So Ravan had 10 heads, and he had the wind and the fire gods in his hands. They say he can, have the deity of the fire is in his hands, and the deity of wind is in his hands, and he could extend his lifespan. He had everything with all the splendor in his country except character. He was a great bhagat, and so he get all the boons from God, like that they say. But who is Ravan really? He's shown with two horns and teeth coming out. That means to say, he was very much a human being, but he has the traits of an animal, which is uncontrollable. Animal means what? Uncontrollable, no logic, nothing. They just do it. Why do you need? You have two pairs of shoes. Why the greed? No, no. I just. Why are you getting so angry? There's no result for getting angry. That person's not going to change. No, I'll get angry. Why there's so many desires? Why there's so much greed? There's absolute no control and no logic. So animals don't have any control. They'll get angry. They won't even ask you, are you going to attack me so that I can attack you? I'll just attack you. So that is why Ravan is shown like an animal. All asuras are shown like animals, very horrible looking, human beings, because they did not have any control. Anyone who has no control are called asuras. Asura means English may or demons, huh? Devils or demons or whatever you call it. Huh? Devilish traits, of course, but what would they consider to be? So I remember there is this parents who had come to me, and the father especially requested me that I should sit with this girl because she has a very promising career as a model, and of course she's won some competitions in the city that she's come from, that she's got some miss something, and also miss that, miss this, and all that she's won, and she looks very pleasant also, that girl. So but then she got caught up with one boy, and then she's getting all worked up, and she drives all the way to the boy's house at 3 in the morning and shouts his name and screams because he didn't pick up the phone, and uh, that that fellow must be sleeping. He don't know what is he's doing, but this girl's getting all perked up and worked up. So then they said you should talk to her because she focus on her career and leave that boy alone. Because the worst the worst point had come when they were traveling in Mumbai. She tried to push him from the 4th floor, that boy, which is so dangerous, and would fallen down and the boy would have died. She would have become a murderer. Now the thing is, the parents are quite worried, and they brought her to me, and then I just sat and spoke to her. She was not in uh, any sort of a condition to listen to anybody, forget about meditation. She was only talking about that boy. So I said, okay, let me call that boy too, because I have to hear the story from his side too, and let's see what we can work out. So I called the boy on my own, and he doesn't even know who I am, but I called, introduced myself, and I spoke to him. He said, he broke down, and he said, I can't manage her. She's so jealous, and she misunderstands, and she's very logical, and she jumps to conclusions, and she's very violent. She's, attacked me so many times, and all. I said, okay, then let's get together, let's talk. I asked him to come, and he was going to come, and she was sitting here. I'm talking to her. I want to talk right in front of her. He comes, and he saw that she's there. She saw, he saw, and she said, I want to go back. I'll when you are alone. I said, I'm here now, And so I told, and the girl is getting so angry looking at him. And then you won't believe it. The face which was so pleasant, suddenly it became evil. You won't imagine. This is the first, I think many times I've seen people getting angry, but this was a classic case, because she's so pretty, and then the whole face became so like evil, like an animal face it became. In 1 second, in a split of a second, without even me knowing what she's going to do, she just pushed and pulled that boy and snatched his mobile from his flip phone he had, and she broke it right in front of me. Just broke it and threw the 2 pieces away from somewhere. Something unimaginable it was. Then she took, he had laptop he was holding like this. I think, I don't know why he bought it. She saw that she broke it. She took it, threw it onto the floor, and jumped on it. And mind you, she's a nice girl. You might think, how sister, she's a nice girl. No, she is nice. But the thing is, the evil trait. So who's Ravan then? Who's Ravan? What are the 10 heads? How can a person walk with 10 heads? This head only we're finding difficult. Now 10 heads you should have, and you're walking. You will trip and fall. No balance. They keep burning the effigy of Ravan every year because it's still not burned. Ravan is still existent. This is the 5 vices of a man and the 5 vices of a woman. That is why they say cut this. Dashera means cut the vices inside you so that your soul can get ignited. That is, you do Dashera, then you can celebrate Diwali. That's what it means. But the thing is, Ravan is who? It's not one another, some person living in Lanka. No, the whole world is an island. Not just one poor Sri Lanka down there. It's a whole world is an island. 1/4 is land and 3/4 is water. So every land, the whole land is Ravan Rajya. It is the kingdom of Ravan. So show me one person who doesn't have these 5 vices. So we are all Ravans. Some express it, some don't, some suppress it, some control, whatever. But the 5 vices are there. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Ahankar. It's there in everybody. So Ravan, they have already written the scriptures there to tell us symbolically such a kind of characters and behavior shows that he is a Ravan. Animal like man. Sun and the wind gods he always had in his hand, they say. That is, you take the remote, you put it on, AC comes. You put on the switch, the light comes. So they have predicted the ones who have the power of science in their hands is Ravan. And they say that he had a great bhakta, that he had worshipped God and he got all the boons. The people who can recite the whole Gita, the whole Mahabharata, Ramayana, everything they will recite. But in their life, this much transformation is not there. I have met so many people. You won't imagine. They can tell all the shlokas and they give you lectures and everything. But in their own life, if you see, they're doing all unethical things. So that's why they said that he'll have a lot of love, remembering God and bhakti, but character is nil. So in that sense, if you understand, Ravan is nobody, just that one person with the 10 heads walking around. No. Genetically also, if he had children, they should also have 10 heads. Na? Such a thing, it doesn't exist only. So Ravan is you and me. So from Copper Age onwards, it sounds quite difficult to take it, but that is the truth. Isn't it? Do you do any wrong actions? We are so good, is it? So if you see, this Ravan Raja started from the Copper Age onwards. The 5 vices came into existence and the divinity was lost. So bhakti began. Everybody started worshipping, and the first worship was of God to be Nirakar, no form, no face. That is all the scriptures in the beginning which came out, even the Gita which was first written, there was no name in it. It was only written Bhagavan Vacha. Krishna's name was inserted later. So in the beginning, when they were writing this script, they said, because in the Copper Age, I'll have to show you. In the Copper Age, if you see, in the Copper Age here, there are 8 kalas left, from 16 to what you call as 14 to 8. And the births in the same period of time of 1050 years is about 21 births. The lifespan has decreased so much because the reasons of death has increased. Isn't it? Death, disease and fight and war. So many ways people can die, not just with old age now. That is for 21 births. So in this period of time of 1050 years, they knew what the time is going to come, and they also knew the time which passed by. Because they are semi-pure, no? So they were very proud of their ancestors, the way they ruled the land in the golden and silver ages. They knew it's an immediate history for them. For us, the Lakshmi Narayan and all we show in the skies. We make stories of Rama Sita. But for them, it was reality. They were ruling and there was so much happiness. And comparatively, they understand now there is so much sorrow, but it wasn't so in the golden and silver ages. So then the kings called for them, the great scholars at that time, they called them and told them to write, something good for the future, for the time which is going to come. What they saw in the future in Kali Yuga, they felt they were like total demons only. Like that they could see visions. So they wanted to write something for the future, which is good for them. So they wrote, do good, you get good, don't do bad, do always right things. And so when they wrote it, everybody who heard it there, they said nobody will be interested to read this at that time. You have to make it interesting, like in a story format. Like for a child, if you want the child to understand that, something, then you say Ramu was a good boy. He did this, he did that. And so you expect the child to learn from it and understand that I should become like Ramu. In the same way, they started writing in a story format. That how when you do good, what results you get. Like that very beautiful stories, very metaphorically speaking. Like if you just say, oh, like I gave an example, oh, your eyes are like an ocean. So what are they saying? The real ocean is not there in the eyes, but it means to say your eyes are very blue and green and whatever. That's what it means. So they started writing symbolically stories, which has very, very philosophical and very, very clear moral stories. That was approved by the king in those days. That is Vikramaditya's days. So when it was written, they became the scriptures. When it was written at that time, the only mode of entertainment was these scriptures. You might wonder how. They would read it out like stories and explain and entertain everybody in a story format. But then explain why the story is made and what the story represents and how it is a story and it is not reality. They would explain also. Because the writers were there at that time, and the people who wrote, they taught the ones next to generations, and accordingly they would teach. That was a mode of entertainment. Like let us take the story, like dramas, exactly. Like in South here, we have what we call Harikatha. I don't know if you have heard it in the ones from the north, they might not know. It is like a Harikatha is something like three people will stand and they'll tell the story. Very entertaining way, singing and dancing and all. So the way made the stories. Let me tell you one story. So many stories are there, but one story I will tell you of Ramayana. Let's take the story of Ramayana. And Rama went to the jungle with Sita, with Lakshmana and everything, and he went after the deer, and the line was drawn, but she stepped out. This is the main essence of that Ramayana story, a part of the Ramayana story. The meaning in that, when they wrote it, they wrote it, of course, the story was written, but there was a meaning in it. Such a beautiful, special meaning in it. That is, they're saying that when the Sita represents any soul. So for us, there is Lakshmana, means Lakshya ki Rekha. There is a line of our aim is drawn in front of us. The code of conduct, they say, na? Maryada ki Rekha. Huh? So they say, if you have a thought, not just her, everybody, when you have a thought of slapping somebody or doing something violent because you're so angry, keep it in your mind. You can change your thought, but you cannot change your actions. So don't step out of that line. Stay inside. Even if you go to a police and say, I want to slap this person, please arrest me. They will say, first slap, then we will arrest you. Action is punishable, not a thought, because thought can be, transformed. In a few minutes time, you might feel this thought was irrelevant and why did I take the thought? But action is irreversible. Once you put into action, the karma, no? Exchange, you have to, the return of it, you have to experience. And once you perform an action, as you understood the first class we took, once you perform an action, it becomes easy to repeat it, and it becomes a sanskar. That is, to go and slap somebody is very easy then. It starts with one slap, no? That's why the action is punishable. They say, no, if you slap, that means you can go and if somebody murders somebody, so you can murder others now. I said, no, I promise I won't. No, you will, at that point of time, you won't know. You can, because you've done it once. So that you have to be punished. You have to be kept away from those kind of actions and that kind of opportunities where you can do something wrong, isn't it? So then what, that is the meaning of that story. So but then she stepped out. Why? Because she didn't see Ravan as Ravan, but she saw him as a beggar. So when we get angry, we give an excuse, we give a defense mechanism, we give an explanation. No, he's younger than I, how can he talk to me like that? So I slept. Whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, whether it's a terrible person who's done something wrong, violence is violence. Karma is accurate. It will not see your reasoning. Of course, it will see the intention, the modus operandi. They say, no, the modus operandi is like, what was that worked before you? Like, did you prepare? It was premeditated. Did you plan it and do it? That I have to slap this person, so you planned properly and then you went and slap, or it was instant. Even in a court also, the court of law also, they punish you according to the intention. The consciousness, like a child will go and burn up they will take mastics and he will throw it into the jungle and all the animals die in it. The child is not responsible because the child has no awareness, no information. More the information, like if a person is smoking and he throws it, he doesn't want to burn the jungle, but he threw it and the whole jungle burnt away. You're not supposed to throw fire anything because it all the leaves dry leaves and dry twigs there, you cannot. But then it catches fire everybody. So there is a karmic effect on the person. He might say, no, I didn't do it purposely. So but you did not do it purposely, but you have the information and you did not bother about it. So there is a karmic account because of that. So she gave an explanation to herself, but this is just a beggar. Like how we give explanation to ourselves, it is just a child. If I don't tell them, then how will they learn? So she stepped out and put it into action. That is, she did something wrong. That's what it means. And so she became a victim of whom? Her own vices. Ravan is not somebody else, na? Her own vices. So she became a victim of her own vices, and her vices kidnapped her. And then she felt bad. Why did I slap my child? Why did I get angry? Why did I show my emotions? She regretted it later? That's what they show. It's not like literally he kidnapped her and took her somewhere and then she's sitting and crying. Why was she crying? Because she lost control. That's what it means. But when these stories were written, there were no names in it again. But then at that time, for example, right now, if you want to sell us a soap like what you call as Lux soap, you want to sell it. You say we need a brand ambassador. We can pay crores, but we need a good actress or somebody that we can represent because people know them, they're famous. So let's say, let's take Aishwarya Rai, and she will show that I have used the soap, so I'm so pretty. Yeah. Now let me tell you, she might have never used that soap in her whole life. We don't know. But then she advertises for the soap. Same way. When they wrote these stories, they said we need brand ambassadors which will inspire the people who are hearing, who read these stories or listen to these stories. We should inspire them. The only famous people at that point of time, the only people they were looking up to and think they were so great with their ancestors and they were the deities, that is all Lakshmi, Narayan, Rama, Sita, all that. So they took their names and inserted in these stories, and that is where all the problems began. Because in the beginning, everybody would tell this is a story. Everybody knew it was a story. They knew there is a symbolic meaning behind it. They knew the deities never did all these things and they were ruling so beautifully. Everybody knew that. But the ones who wrote it are no more. The ones who heard it are no more. And the misinterpretation and extra stories started getting added up. And so much masala came into the scriptures. There's no meaning at all. Nobody's there to explain also symbolically what it means. So they tell, there are in Mahabharata, there's such stories which you cannot even tell. It is shameful to even, share those. Like when we're studying Sanskrit, we had one story which was there in Sanskrit books that our lecturer, she said, I can't read it to you all. It was such bad description of a woman. I don't think any God will inspire anybody to write anything about the body because God himself doesn't have a body. So the thing is, that's impure in interpretation. Now there is absolutely no meaning in anything which is written. All human interpretation, human additions have taken place. The beginning also, when the scriptures were written, it was written by human beings, but they had more divine intellect. Semi-purity was there. Na? So slowly, as they descended from Copper Age, they started worshipping the deities because deities became very famous because of all the stories. So just like how these actors has become so famous and people become fans and they make temples for them. Yeah, there's a temple for Amitabh Bachchan in Kolkata, and there is a temple for Khushbu in Chennai. So the thing is, they make temples. That's how the whole psyche works. The same way they started making temples for the deities, but at least it's not bad because they were very divine and pure and perfect. So that's okay. They were not gods, but they were divine. So then the worship of God is continuing as the Shivling, and of the deities, both they continue worshipping. So they are not so bad. This semi-purity was there. Then they entered Kali Yuga. This is the last bit. I think then I can show you this. Thank you, Pravina. This is quite a heavy book, really. I can't hold it too long. Etla? Okay, fine. Yeah. Here you. Oh my God. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. If you see, now they started worshipping the deities here in the Copper period, you can see. And then slowly they descended into the Kalyug period. And if you see the Kalyug period, the soul is totally tamopradhan, that is semi-pure. Not semi-pure, sorry, totally impure. So the dark color, no, it's showing the soul is tamopradhan, totally impure. And this, when they enter this period, they are worshipping deities, but now there are animal gods here. You see, they don't exist in the golden age. They were not our ancestors. So who are these concepts? Who are this Hanuman and Ganesh? That I'll explain first before I can go into it. I think Hanuman I explained the other day, no? Hanuman explained. Who is Hanuman I explained. It's a worshipping of a powerful thought by using something Jyotsna is telling. Yeah. So, okay. So, oh, share screen. In the computer, we have a picture, but it's very pixelated. Very pixelated. You can't, it's like that, and it's not very clear. You need a, horizontal one. I don't know how to explain. We tried it. Yours is which batch am I taking? Yours is the 6th batch I'm taking this course for. So we've done all those experiments. Anyway, so listen. So what happened was, who's Hanuman explained. Now I'll tell you who's Ganesh. He's shown with a huge stomach, elephant head, and a rat as his vehicle, which seems unimaginable in a logical mind. You think, how is it possible for a man to be like an elephant, and an elephant man has a small rat as a vehicle, and it doesn't make sense at all. Again, he doesn't exist. He never existed. It is a symbolic understanding. In those times, when the great scholars and philosophers, when they were approached by some problem, they would share. Now there are nobody like that. In the beginning of Kali Yuga, somebody still was there who could guide people in a better way. So they would say that, look, if you want to remember, if you want, let's say somebody went up and said, I have these obstacles. I want to overcome these obstacles. I'm having a hard time. So what do I do? So that particular person who's a learned person, the wise man, would say, don't worry. What are they saying? Oh, you didn't quite understand. Okay. Okay, first let me tell you about this Ganesh then. So when people had obstacles, they would go to these scholars and these great people and ask them, what do we do? We have this obstacle. So they would tell them, don't worry, do this, do this, do that. That's it. We can't remember all of this. So they would say, we'll give you a formula in a form of an image, so that it's very difficult for you to, it will be very easy for you to remember. It won't be difficult for you. And the image they would give is like Ganesha. They say, look, imagine that there's an elephant head, which means to say your memory is gone right back from the period that we came from. That is your memory. That is because Ganesh is known for being a very intellectual person, and his memory is very high. So elephants are considered to have the highest memory than humans. So symbolically, they show elephant head because his memory has gone back till then. So when you have memory back then, that is an unlimited. And when you have a huge stomach, your huge stomach represents that when stones were thrown at him of insults, he ate them like considering them to be sweets. It's not like he would eat a lot of laddus so that his stomach became big. What is so great about somebody eating laddus? Why would you worship somebody who eats laddus? A lot of people like laddus, and they also have very good digestion power also. But that doesn't mean you worship them, no? Isn't it? So no. The meaning is that he had the power of accommodation. That when people would insult him and throw these stones of insults at him like stones, he would just take it and think they're sweets and not get affected by it. That is why they show the power of accommodation he had, which is so huge. So when you have an obstacle, they used to tell you should have a lot of power to accommodate. Don't get carried away by it. Don't go spread it around. Don't tell everybody about this. Don't keep on discussing about. Don't keep on thinking about it. But accommodate it and finish it inside. That is why they show the huge stomach. Then they show that the rat is the one which is a vehicle on which he rides on. Now, such a huge image sitting on a small rat, the rat will die. No, how it can take this huge Ganesha around? No. When the rat comes into your life, into your house, it eats up your paper, eats up your clothes. You won't even know. Very silent worker it is. Even if it bites you, also you won't know it has bitten you and has walked away. Such a silent worker rat is. So they compare the rat to a weakness. When a weakness comes into your life, you won't know it is wrong. 1000 लोग आके सुनाएंगे, lot of people say नहीं नहीं करो ऐसा, अच्छी बात नहीं है, don't do that, it's not good for you, but I'll continue to do it. You won't think it's wrong. I'll give you an example. I don't know how much time I have. You can be there for another 10 minutes. I don't know. Because I don't know. I'm taking a little more time because this class I told you yesterday. Yes. Okay. So the thing is, a weakness. I'll give you an example. That there's this boy whose parents called me and they told me, Mister, you have to talk to my boy, because he's 23 and he's formed this attachment or relationship with this woman who's 35, and she's married and she has 2 daughters, and he wants to marry her now. I don't know what promises that lady gave him, but he assumes that she's going to divorce that husband who's a Miran merchant and he is traveling 6 months in a year. Whether she's using him or whether he thinks she's going to marry, we don't know about the story. But they asked me to talk to him. There are a lot of fights in the house because of that lady. So I called him and I was speaking. And immediately he became very defensive. He said, no, Didi, you're very influenced by Mama. You've heard their story first and not my story. So, it's not like that. She's a wonderful lady. The way she takes care of her children, I want her to take care of my children also like that. I said, you have a whole lot of future. Now your children are not in the picture at all. And every mother takes care of the children very well. She allowed you into the house, so you came to know. Your mother was also a good mother. That she call anybody outside to come and see them. No. How much ever I explain, you say, no, sister, no, you don't know how she is and this and that. And he was totally not for it. And he went away. Exactly 1.5 years later, he came. He was standing outside. I didn't recognize him only. He had all full beard is growing. And I said, who is this person? And then he said, sister, I'm so and so. Oh, you are the one. What's sister? I'm so disturbed. And he sat like this for some time and then said, what happened? He was such an emotional young fellow that he is going with that lady in that open GP he has, is going somewhere. And she said something and he said, no, don't go with that person. No, he's trying to put, her husband is only not controlling her. Now he's telling her, don't talk to this one, don't talk to that one, something like that. And she said, who are you to stop me? I'll do what I like. So he slapped her on her face in the middle of the road. So there are a lot of eyewitnesses. That is non-bailable warrant she put on him. So the police are in his house, police are in Chacha's house and Mama's house. He's running here, there, here, there. He said, sister, why did you not stop me at that time? I said, look, I tried to stop you. You never heard me. No? Because your rat was not in control, I said. He said, what is my rat? I said, your weaknesses. How Ganesh is shown is his Vahan. Vahan will not move without his permission. Will the car just drive on its own and go away somewhere? No. It will be just park there till you want to go somewhere. Most obedient it is. So the weaknesses also, everybody has weaknesses, but in control. So when you're able to control your weaknesses and you have a power to accommodation and a memory that goes so high, that is when you can overcome obstacles. So you can take obstacles and throw it into the sea. Throw it out. But they take, you should throw Vigna. They throw Vigneshwar into the sea. What is the point of throwing that Vigraham, that image there? Doesn't work at all. Doesn't matter. And the whole procedure and the procession, you should be very dangerous. The drinking, smoking, and dancing, and this is all not the right thing. This is all Kalyugi ways of functioning. So the thing is, the meaning is this of Ganesh. Hanuman is the understanding that He is a powerful thought. One thought is powerful, all the thoughts are powerful. So Hanuman is the first powerful thought. Then the whole Vanar Sena, the army of monkeys followed. That is, the army of thoughts followed him. That's what it means. There is nobody like Hanuman who made the bridge and all. Nothing like this. Where is the bridge now? There's no bridge there. No, nothing like that. It never happened. It is just the concept that you should be a monkey-like mind will become disciplined with God's remembrance, and with one determined thought will make all the thoughts change. And then the thought becomes so light, it starts flying. That the picture they show, Hanuman flying towards light, that is, your thought is flying towards God, isn't it? So that is what it means. The worshipping Hanuman is worshipping a powerful thought. So now if you see, this whole Kali Yuga has come to the end now with so much tamo pradhanta. Even though bhakti is going on, they're worshipping trees, animals and stones, everything begins here. At least the worshipping deities here. Here, animals, human beings, everybody, godmen are several, so many will be formed. So many mutts and punts, none of them connect you to God. None of them will connect you to God. So, and Bharat has become like a poverty-stricken beggar in that thorn bed, where they would sell diamonds, even in copper age. On the road, they would sell diamonds on the road, like Bengal. Bengal, you understand? Like brinjals they would sell on the road. Like that, it was such a rich country that Vasco da Gama was searching for this country, that Columbus was searching for this country. Captain Cook was searching for this country because the richest is a golden sparrow. That country, because of its own vikarma, it has come to such a point that there's so much poverty and there is no glory, nothing. It's lost everything now. So here it is lying down on the bed of, thorns and taking from other countries in the World Bank. So if you see this whole world, now it has come to this, it has to be cleansed through communal rights will be there, natural calamities will take place, and ammunition, that is bombs and all will take place, and the cleansing will happen. And whilst we are connecting to God, we are able to get the strength to perform sukarma. Because even after doing bhakti, these actions are not changing. It doesn't work out. We have to connect to God so that we go back home. This is our home. This is the whole story of the rise and fall of Bharat. Tomorrow I'll be telling you about the whole world. Okay. So you want me to take a question, 1 or 2 questions I'll take, and then we'll end, because you must be having some questions. Somebody asked a question already. So let me see. Please tell the part about Hanuman. Sister, I'll be easy to view the picture. Okay. Karma is cyclic chain of events. How does it start in the first place? Meaning? What does the question mean? Is she there still? Satarupa Panda? Satarupa? She's still there? Okay. Cycle chain of events. No, it is action reaction. Action reaction. No. So the more we always have a choice. When you have body consciousness, vices come. And the vices comes in the form of a thought. If you're able to control it, you won't start the cycle. You cannot put it into action. It can finish in a thought only. Even now, for people, a lot of people are there. They want to do something wrong, but they control. 100% they'll control. It's all that. Sister, as a parent, my child is not doing the things right. How do I know whether the unwanted behavior is, or is it because I should step in and correct her and respond? Whether, given there is so much dependence on karmic account, I'm really confused when it's whether it's a karmic account or whether it's not. You have to stop now. You have to play your role as a mother. Sanskaras are there. Of course, the sanskaras are there. But then you have to guide. This is your responsibility, and see that they don't repeat those actions again, so that it becomes more stronger. And whatever karmic account you have with the child, naturally there will be sorrow, there will be anger, there will be disturbance, there will be so many things going on. But then always keep good wishes. You should always develop good wishes for the child. Always know the child will do very good, so that the child gets a strength to do something nice. And also you're not increasing your karmic account with the child. You have to step back when there's nothing that, informing attitudes that he's like that only, he'll always be like that, he's so, to form attitudes, you have to step back. You have to step in with a good wish that you have to give him direction. and know that he should become a better human being. Yeah. Kali Yuga itself is Iron Age of yugas. What actually it means, because practicality, it's not 1050 years. No, it is 1050 years. That's the truth. It is that much time only. It is. If you go to our India website, you go to India website for tourism, it is there. There's written on top 5000 years of history of India. It's already written. Can you please guide how to respond by opposite person to bad karma? What do we do? Bad karma person doesn't listen to me. We should not get influenced by bad karma person, no? That we are also becoming a part of his bad karma. Don't get into it. You see somebody is doing bad karma, if you are responsible, correct. If you feel it can be corrected, tell the responsible person. If you can do nothing about it, just understand it's a drama, that is his role, and he's playing his role. We can do anything about it. Unless we change our drishtikon towards that person, change our vision towards that person. I think that is where we need to take care of ourselves first. Anger, ego, lust, attachment, greed. Yes, right. Okay, that's all. Questions, all of them. More tomorrow then. More questions you can have tomorrow. If you feel I have not answered you, then you can again put the question across and then I will answer you. Okay, email me also. 2 minutes silence. Huh? What's after golden age? After Iron Age is confluence age, which we are there here already, the confluence age now. After this golden age, a cycle now.